It is Issues at Hand, WBS TV, 0200 90 66 72, 0200 90 66 72. Godba, the elections after reforms or no elections before reforms?
Yeah, I like the way. Yeah, but I think that I was going to blame the media that you've been coaching it that way. But I think it has been our message anyway. So, I would say that the campaign for free and fair elections is more or less like the flagship program of the alliance. In our conversations, soon after the national consultation on free and fair elections and the adoption of the compact, we sat and discussed how we take the compact forward. We had sent copies to the president, to parliament, to the minister for justice, to the leader of government business, and we saw reluctance on the part of the government to take these ideas forward. Many of us within the Free and Fair Elections campaign believe that the current regime, that the regime is so arrogant that there is a lot of impunity, that they really don't care what citizens think. That's why they could even come up with a bill that has nothing, and you spend lots of money printing the bill, discussing the bill. You even send a committee of parliament to go consult the citizens for it to come back and report that they don't have the time to incorporate the comments. But you've spent Ugandan taxpayers' money. There are children out there going to school without lunch. And these guys on the committee just go around the country saying they are collecting views, and they come back and say, oh, we don't have time to incorporate the views. So many of us believe that the government is so arrogant that it is not likely that they will actually deliver on the reforms.
I want to hear that. Therefore,
so what then is what are the options? The options available are that actually the only option available is that you would have to take over government for you to make sure that those reforms are implemented.
So you will be into the election,
yes,
with or without the reforms.
I want to put it this way, that for many of us who have been in the free and fair elections campaign, the Democratic Alliance and the participation in the elections is a natural progression of the free and fair elections campaign. Strategically, we know that, especially for some of us who work in civil society, we know you can lobby, you can advocate, you can do what. But we also think that issues of this nature, like electoral reforms, you have to give them a political manifestation. So I would argue that the Democratic Alliance is the political manifestation of the free and fair elections campaign. So anybody who argues, because I have had all these arguments, that Hello?
Hello? Yes, good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Your name, question or comment?
This is Rogers. This is a fan.
Yes, Rogers, you're live. Go right ahead.
This is a fan, eh?
Yes, Rogers.
Who did that one? I'm just seeing on the WBS. I will not understand that guy. Who is that one?
He's got back to Mushabe. Okay. Unfortunately, we'll let you go at that. But, Godba.
I was just going to conclude this point and say that I have had time and again people saying, oh, so now that the opposition or the alliance is going to participate in the elections, it means that they have abandoned the electoral reforms. No, on the contrary, that is more or less like more of the escalation of the campaign for the free and fair elections. Because I think that since government cannot deliver reforms that the citizens have demanded for, it is important that all of us as Ugandans of voting age, we go to the polls, cast our vote, protect that vote, and make sure that we run out the government and take over government to be able to do the reforms, since this government cannot give us the reforms.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Peter.
How are you? Your name, question or comment?
My name is Milton.
Yes, Milton.
Want to inform the guests that it's only if we work together that we can stand, but if we are divided, we shall fall.
Thank you, Milton.
I like the way she's talking.
Thank you, Milton. I know Milton speaks to your heart. I would like to hear someone else. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Peter. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Your name, question or comment?
Go here.
Yes.
So, I'm a born of Kenya. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go.
I'm going here, born of Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
Where I got the baby with us last week. And those people of Kenya know Baba with his track record. And I think though we need change, we have to consider the track record of the family leaders. And I have a feeling that maybe some of us, our feelings may not be catered for once we want the Baba. Thank you.
Okay. Have you had opportunity to analyze the individual candidates and assess them to who you offer them to? I think that's basically what he's coming to. I'll take the last caller. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, Chibazo, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, this is Tarwana calling from Mukono.
Yes, Kalwana.
I keep on asking myself if it be true that the national identity card information was stolen and the computers that were stolen, then are we really going to vote something really true? Because I wonder, why are we even voting at the end of the day? Because the national identity card information which are going to use for during the election as voters card is tampered with. Information has been tampered with. Thank you.
Thank you. Good, but the last question is still at the heart of a free and fair election. After the reforms haven't come, after the Citizens Compact, do I want to wake up in the morning and present myself to Chigud?
You see, that is actually that's the crux of the matter. Because dictatorships, like elections, the biggest beneficiary of an election is a dictatorship. How? Because dictatorships like deriving legitimacy from popular participation processes. So, but secondly, the idea of a free and fair election is commanded by the Constitution. It's not, because sometimes we behave as if government has given us a favor, has done us a favor to organize elections. No, but actually, on the contrary, these are our elections. The standard of elections is guaranteed in the Constitution. It has to be regular, it has to be free, it has to be fair. Now, it is the responsibility of every Ugandan, both individually and collectively, to make sure that the elections of that standard are organized. When a government, whether it is the incumbent or another government, it could be a government under UPC or FDC or NRM, when a government fails to deliver on that standard, it becomes our responsibility as citizens. In our duty, in our civic duty to defend the Constitution, it becomes our job to make sure that that government is removed. Now, the only way...
The modalities...
The modality for removing the government, the modality is actually...
Who will bail the cat?
The modalities, there are different modalities on how you remove government. The most civil and, in my view, acceptable is to use the same process, the electoral process, to remove the government. So that's what I'm saying. If 15 million Ugandans, we are told the registered voters are around 15 million. If 15 million Ugandans understood their responsibility to defend the Constitution, to ensure that the standard of an election that is guaranteed by a Constitution is delivered, and those 15 million said, we are moving to the polls to remove this government, there is no way it can remain in power.
Godba, we have to go out. Is there a possibility that the TDA will present 2 candidates for presidency?
I think that that's a decision of summit. That decision has to be tested against the goals of the alliance. The goal of the alliance is to win power, establish a government, a national government, a transitional government of national unity that is going to be able to change, to ensure that there is equal opportunity and shared prosperity for every Ugandan. Now, if the summit finds that in its wisdom, it is tenable and useful and relevant to have 2 candidates, for me, I wouldn't second guess them. I think they should bite the bullet, make that decision.
Is it a position that you think is particularly picking traction?
No, the discussions have been going on. I think that there is really, I can sense that there is a divide, because there are people who think that the whole essence of the alliance, as it is stated in the protocol, is to have a joint presidential candidate and joint candidates across the board. I think that when the summit meets tomorrow, it's going to be looking at, if you had, because that proposal, I'm sure, is still on the table. The summit is going to have to discuss, if you had such a situation where you have 2 or more candidates, how do you still make sure that the spirit of the alliance is maintained in as far as the fielding of candidates is concerned?
And finally, are there any scientific means that have been backing this process of selection of candidates? Let's say opinion polls, particular research, or it's how much swag I carry into the meeting, how much I have convinced the guys that are seated at the table?
No, there's a very deliberate scientific process behind the decision making. Most of it is based on the available information and data. We are looking at the 2011 elections data. We are looking at both presidential and parliamentary and local council. We are looking at independent opinion polls, Research World International, Afrobarometer. So all those polls, we look at them and then provide the summit with some
if you're
basic
looking at
information.
Research World International and Afrobarometer,
Yeah.
they have a very clear pattern. Why haven't you decided?
No. They don't have a clear pattern, because you see, if you look, because you are looking at trends. You are not just looking at 2011, for example. You go back 2006, look at the trends. Remember that electoral constituencies shift in many times. So even if I was a contestant in this constituency for an MP, and I got 30,000 votes, that is important in terms of how you make a decision, but it is not the only thing you need to consider. So in other words, we are using this data to give us basic information against which we can then put into account other considerations. What are the shifts that have taken place? What are the changes that have taken place? What are the new dynamics that have come up that could actually influence the voting pattern of the voters in a particular constituency?
Very finally, do you think because the TDA is largely an elite setup, candidate Mama Mbabazi appeals to it better than candidate Kiza Besigye, who appeals to, quote-unquote, the riffraff?
The elite issue, you've stated it as a fact. I don't consider it a fact.
It is.
You've stated it as a fact.
It is a collection of lawyers.
No. Which lawyers are you talking? Which lawyers are you talking about?
Let me see. Waf is a high-end journalist and politician.
But
Our doctors.
all the political leaders there, they like using a very interesting term called they are practical politicians. So they come from a certain background. The clergy who sit there, they really pastor to ordinary Ugandans all over the place. But even when you go to the committees, the secretaries for mobilization who sit on the candidates committee, they are all from up country. They drive their cars and their fuel and they cater for their expenses, because really the alliance doesn't have all the resources to be able to facilitate. But you are amazed at the level of sacrifice that these guys are putting into this process. So when you describe the alliance as elite, I say, okay, that could be a perception or an opinion, but it doesn't really describe what the alliance is.
Right, thank you, Goodbye. I know that you actually refuse to answer that question.
No, Peter, that is my honest answer.
Viewers, we have to go. Goodbye, will we have a candidate tomorrow?
I suspect, I don't want to second guess the summit, but I suspect that we'll have the candidate tomorrow.
If you don't have a candidate tomorrow, will it be end of the road?
No. I think that the summit has been in charge of the process. I don't think that if it is going to be end of the road, by the way, the summit will announce that as the end of the road. And I think it's still in their full discretion to do it.
Thank you very much, Goodbye. And viewers, we'll keep hands on the tab. Believe you me, if it breaks, if there is blue or yellow or green or white smoke, we shall tell you.
Yeah.
Good night.